Hello, people of Lolita. Before we get to LWLN, I'd like you to know that I'm launching a new series called I'm Telling Tyler. The premise is a write-in show where you can ask for advice or tell me the latest tea. It starts next week, and you can submit all questions and stories to imtellingtyler@gmail.com. Tell me if you don't want your name redacted, or I will conceal your identity like you're in witness protection. This ends the announcement. Let's continue on to the fracking show. Welcome back. I'm Tyler. You're watching Scarfing Scarves, and welcome to the 58th installment of Last Week Lolita News. At the top of the segment, Royal Princess Alice continues its anarchic aesthetic with the release of Melting Hospital. Those who tried to make any sense of it are currently in a medically induced coma. This reporter wonders what the heavens they're doing with a human eyeball. Was the horse tranquilizer involved? And if so, is being butchered by Mittens the murderess covered under Blue Cross Blue Shield? Or does the deductible stretch right up to the very edge of utter dissection at the hands of an untrained house cat? The state of American health insurance says yes, and residents of the US of A can expect to receive a small Bible and a bite stick for anything short of a full Braveheart. Not available in California. Ask your doctor if a torturous demise is right for you. Got a bit off topic there, but this brand is essentially a hallucinogenic, and I refuse to be responsible for anything I say. Speaking of random nonsense, M has tired of selling $50 pillowcases and has instead released a mini mana for all your sinful purposes. Those who built shrines are celebrating, and you can expect to pay roughly $25 USD for the pleasure of having a goth icon inhabit your dusty bookshelf, mantle, or orifice of your choosing. Don't look at me like that. I'm not the one buying a tiny mime man, and I've seen enough of this fashion's obsession with him not to rule it out. Anything is possible. My apologies for the nausea, and those of you left should know that it looks like the tombstones are removable, you know, in case your purposes for them would benefit with as few unpredictable pieces as possible. Best of luck in the Bunny Bear emergency room. Rest assured your feline physician has seen worse things pulled out in their day. Meanwhile, Metamorphose has come out with a cat print that doesn't disappoint. I'm getting serious Alice and the Pirates vibes, and the collective feel of books, candles, and magical-looking symbols makes this release the perfect fit for this coming Halloween and or any other month of the year, given that cat prints are best prints, and anything that looks like Salem from Sabrina the Teenage Witch is always in style. That's the original one for you filthy heathens. I prefer my black felines to be cursed warlocks with the biting personality of a drag queen with a raging hangover. Speaking of small cats, Lady Sloth's newest series, Where is the Bat, is asking all the hard questions. The answer is right fracking there. And in all seriousness, I've yet to see a print that so perfectly combines two creatures that would attack from above, quite like this amalgamation of Flying Squeak Squeak and Hairless Emissary of Satan himself. This release comes in JSK, OP, skirt, and comfy dress. The sizing is, as always, inclusively extensive, and if you're not already sold on these wrinkly-looking angels, then perhaps I might encourage your favor by saying it has fracking bat lace. Lace with bats on it, and can be matched with a diverse amount of head accessories, a selection that Angelic Pretty would do well to take a few notes from, given that their hair accessories range from buy the head bow or get bent. Also, whatever this is supposed to be, but that's beside the point. Reservations are being taken until the 15th of August, 2019, and transitioning towards our final release for this evening, Alice and the Pirates have unveiled a new print by the name of The Night in Ghost Forest. I'm proud of them for the brevity, and I'm sure their first title was something along the lines of The Night in the Ghost Forest, Spoopy Boogaloo, The Life and Beheading of Ichabod Crane. My nonsense aside, I actually think the print is cool as frack. I'm getting serious Sleepy Hollow vibes from all those jack-o'-lanterns, and I already envy the goth Lolitas this coming Halloween when they're wearing this seasonally appropriate print. And all Angelic Pretty has managed to pump out is another creepy cute catastrophe with double the crosses and triple the testament to a style that died sometime in 2014. Harsh words, I know, but someone has to put down the uprising before the scene kids get wind, and we have 50 walking septum piercings storming this fashion to the backtrack of Black Veil Brides. Thank God the emo kids had the self-respect to grow into goths. And turning towards social news, Facebook group Ruffle Chat actually saw the question, what is the community's view on Lolita fashion that isn't brand? Followed it with, it seems taboo, and those reading who weren't immediately transported back to EGL LiveJournal circa 2010 grew split wigs and mismatched tea parties to honor their collective loss. Summer is truly upon us, and blessings be upon our lost sisters as they time travel to haunt the ghostly remains of GTFO EGL. May their souls live on and behind the bows. God knows that community's been dead since the advent of any social platform that didn't require the HTML knowledge of a drunk programmer. Meanwhile, as that about wraps up the week, we turn towards towards LWLN's next special segment. A certain Facebook group is back in full swing, and welcome to This Reporter Tries to Keep Their Sanity, Fails, and then keeps talking anyway. Welcome to Fatty Chans Are Coming for Your Brand. It all started in Ruffle Chat, and with a post about a pancake dress. The poster noted the larger sizing for the honey cake MTO, asked people's opinions on it, and whether or not they thought it was a good thing for Angelic Pretty going forward. Which, being a near rhetorical question for anyone with measurements above that of a mannequin, immediately led to appreciation for the change. People with busts that would register from space were particularly appreciative. Tall people liked the extra room given that most dresses rest on their ribs. And generally speaking, everyone was holding hands and singing Kumbaya into the sunset, give or take a few on the smaller spectrum who would have to live through the horror of actually tying their waist ties a few centimeters tighter than usual. That is, until a certain poster lost their mind. We shall call her Bethany, and unleashed a spree of entitlement so concentrated you're going to have to water it down with 2 shots of tequila and a decent amount of cranial trauma. I will now read this verbatim, and it goes like so. Hate it. I am very unhappy they chose to release only a larger size. I've ordered them anyway and will get them taken in. It's absolutely ridiculous to expect those of us who regularly wear the fashion to be able to wear a much larger than usual size. Western brands hardly ever cater to my petite Asian size. Wearing Lolita was empowering because there was a world where my size was the norm, no getting it tailored to fit. It's MTO, why not offer more than just 2 damn sizes? 2, it's not asking for a lot. Now, is asking for 2 sizes for an MTO particularly heinous behavior? No. Does tacking that request onto the end of your paragraph that implied that only skinny people regularly wear the fashion and implying that larger people don't even matter make you seem like a raging twit waffle? Yes. People above a size negative thimble can and do regularly wear the fashion. Making something 6 centimeters bigger than usual does not spell the end of the world. And it's especially cute to see a demand for 2 sizes only when she herself feels it might not fit. Where were these calls when the fashion was restricted to her body type only? Oh wait, I guess she was too busy feeling empowered to notice the scads of people left outside looking in. People who also couldn't wear a lot of Western fashion because it wasn't designed for their much larger size. People who, again, apparently don't wear the fashion regularly because this skinny prat's common sense got shrunk in the dryer. May I suggest air drying your empathy next time? And getting back to the topic at hand, a commenter who we'll call Katie dropped by to tell Bethany that she could cry harder, still had the original round of honey cake that would fit her measurements. These larger sizes would be inclusive for people who didn't, and that she could just cinch it in with a ribbon to make up for, again, a 6 centimeter difference. To which Bethany, of course, responded by calling the commenter a colonizer, and said she'd cry in Victorian Maiden and Mary Magdalene. So, on the one hand, turning a discussion of sizing options for a niche Japanese street fashion into ad hom accusations of Western colonialism, and on the other, calling Katie fat. Like you do. Katie then called out the obvious insult and humble brag, to which Bethany responds by denying an insult was ever made, blames Katie for her tone, and then goes on a self-pitying tirade about her lived experience as a member of the Lollipop Guild in a country where larger people reign supreme, ending it with, quote, "Don't trivialize what you don't experience." Which is funny given how quick she is to trivialize the experience of larger Lolitas to the extent of editing them out of fracking existence. Maybe she's just too short to see the point. This wraps up all my small jokes for the evening, up to and until I decide you need to suffer a little more. Also, can we pause a bit and examine that intent generally matters when crafting an insult? For example, skinny is just a descriptor until you put a little tone behind it. Saying colonizer with a similar twist is just the same, Bethany. Can we at least agree that the context of a word changes it? That is, if you're tall enough to sit at the table with the rest of the adults and have a little chat. Took me 0.5 seconds to get back at it again. My apologies for the height challenged and patience poor. Seriously though, while I'm sure there are serious issues experienced by people living in countries where their body type is not the norm, dismissing similarly outcast people's needs in your mission to find something that fits is not the way to achieve anything other than a reputation as an unabashed frackwit. Someone then said that Bethany had every other Lolita brand to pick from. She responded by claiming that said person had the entire world of Western brands, and no progress was made whatsoever besides the astounding conclusion that Bethany must never have seen a fat person ever, given that she seems to think the entire Western world caters to anything above a size 6 with clothing that doesn't resemble a poorly designed tent. Larger Western brands have only really taken off recently with any kind of ease of access, and while it is, again, a challenge to be smaller than the norm, there are better ways to express your issues than with the empathetic equivalent of a high-pitched whine. A larger woman stepped in to offer some fracking sense by saying welcome to her world where most clothes don't fit. Bethany backpedals at the speed of sound, tries to claim that their collective worlds are similar after dismissing the existence of fat Lolitas, says she didn't hate that the dress was released in a larger size, even though her first words were hate it in all caps, claims she's so happy for all the people who would fit in it, and ends with saying that she just hates that she can't have that experience this time as well. Which, beyond being a reality distortion field, the likes of which would consume a small town, is a near impressive amount of horseshit. I would like to remind everyone at this point that Bethany has bought both of the MTO. She is suffering from a difference of 6 fracking centimeters, and the only people who are going to buy that she's happy for the people she summarily dismissed as not regular Lolitas with ridiculously larger sizes at the beginning of this shitstorm are either suffering from a sudden onset of explosive amnesia or spent the entirety of this episode sniffing glue and stopped watching once the nozzle got stuck up their nose. Some absolute saint finally stepped in to call Bethany on her dismissal of larger people, saying that they're just as much a part of the community as she is, to which Bethany actually responds by saying that that's fair, seems to actually learn something, and compares the lived experiences of people too large for most fashion with her own pursuit of, quote, high-end shoes that almost never fit her, concluding that if a brand made just one shoe in a size for her and someone else who fit all the other shoes complained, she would be annoyed too. Congrats to Bethany for passing first grade empathy, minus points for ending it with, quote, just understand that my experience in the fashion isn't in a vacuum. I exist in the real world and I face real world issues just like everyone else does. First, what the blanket platitude, Batman? Second, can I not exist in the real world anymore? I'd like the first ticket to fakery if this is the kind of absolute frickwit I'm going to be dealing with. This tiny ray of half-cocked hope is then eradicated entirely when Bethany goes back to bragging about all the brand that fits her, saying she has every right to the opinion she posted on larger people, whining about the oppression of the tiny-waisted, and finishing it off with the classic sorry you got offended, so par for the course for someone who's learned absolutely smack and walked away feeling like they said anything of value. Which leads to a mod stepping in to close the thread out of what I must presume to be a deep disappointment with Santa's whiniest elf. And we all get to leave this conversation with the assurance that there are people as small-minded as they are in stature. You can fight me for the short jokes. That's all the time we have for tonight. This has been Tyler. You've been watching Scarfing Scarves. And before you autoplay your way into another endless stream of madness, you should know that this show is sponsored in part by BB&B. Their jewelry is known to counteract the agony of watching this show, and you can find their offerings at bbnb.net, link to their shop below. And to wrap things up with a big fracking bow, I'd like to thank my patrons for continuing to multiply in terrifying numbers. I don't know why you do it, and if you'd like to join their number, you can head over to patreon.com/lastweeklolitanews for videos the public hasn't seen yet, question my sanity, and or take part in the growing community of people who want Lolita fashion content that isn't going to turn into a cosplay channel 5 months later and or abandon you entirely. Thanks again, guys, and I'll catch you next time. You can catch me at Delta HCon as well. It's in September 20th through 22nd, I believe. I'm a guest again in Houston, Texas. Find me there. Bye-bye.